Oh, hello there. Yes, well, good grief. I think I've finally arrived at a desktop setup that might actually work. This is, I think, about my fifth attempt at this, so I think it might be enemy action. Yes. Anyway, today, good grief, yes, I thought we'd, talk about tragedy today. So, if you don't want to hear about tragedy, don't go any further. Trigger warning and all that kind of stuff. Yes, I'm going to talk about suicide today. So, if you don't want to, don't carry on. There you go, that wasn't hard. Now then, yes, tragic news yesterday about the death of another student at Oxford. All deaths are tragic, all Oxford deaths are tragic. But there was a previous, couple of weeks ago, another Oxford tragic death, and the newspapers seem to be very, very keen to make political capital out of it, which I always find distasteful. Oddly enough, I like to think that I don't make political capital out of things, even though I'm making this video now about them making political capital about it, and I'm probably going to make some political capital about that out of that, if you like. If you want, it's up to you. Anyway, yes, so we had a tragic case of a young man who was a victim of cancel culture, according to the coroner, and the Daily Mail in particular, and the Telegraph in particular did jump up and down about this, because of course it was all the fault of the woke lefties what cancel people. The problem with that, of course, is that in order for me as a woke teacher who has made young people woke for 25 years to be responsible for that, we would have had to have had situations where people weren't cancelled or shunned or sent to Coventry beforehand. And yes, I do believe that such things do predate my teaching career, or indeed wokedom, yes. But we do have this kind of hierarchy of different people's deaths, don't we? I mean, you know, there were lots of baying voices out there. I mean, like sociology professors and all the rest of them, of course, who are only too keen to stick the boot in. But I'm wondering if with the latest tragic person, PhD student, autistic and trans, whether or not people will be equally unhappy, because they should be, because all lives surely are intrinsically worthwhile, and we as a society should measure the quality and value and length of people's lives with how civilised we are. But we seem to be moving into a sort of particularly barbarous stage where all of those noises off are actually drone strikes that are happening to people, to real people, in real time, that we are expected to ignore. Yes, don't listen to that great disturbance in the force, whatever you do. So, anyway, there are lots of young people that I work with, and hopefully work reasonably effectively. Always kick myself when I don't. That's often when you see me sort of being a bit, I've had a tough week. It's one of those weeks when I've had to think seriously about what I've done, because I get things wrong sometimes. Sometimes I get things wrong and it would have gone wrong anyway. But I still beat myself up about it, because, hey, I'm that type of person. One does get the feeling that a lot of leader writers for the Mail and the Telegraph aren't those types of people, and it's just one of those things. So long as we can score some points out of a tragedy, then we've won. But there is an ongoing epidemic of mental health issues amongst the adult population, amongst the young people's population, amongst trans individuals, and amongst autistic individuals. And if you look at, for example, the rates of suicide for young autistic adults, they really are horrific in terms of being over 10 times the amount of other people around them. That's because they have to fight so hard to hold it together. And after a while, you just can't do that anymore. Yeah, you run out of that lubrication and everything starts to grind. Basically a sort of form of PTSD in its own right. And we can't really afford to lose people, because they're all of them, very, very precious. Even the ones I slag off here are very, very precious. You see, I think all people are precious, and I want to live in a world where all people are precious. But as far as I'm concerned, we have an economic system that doesn't regard people as precious. So there you go. I think it's going to take an awful lot more before other people start coming around to that particular viewpoint, which used to be very, very pervasive after, about 1945 for some odd reason. And maybe that's a lesson that we all do need to learn again. It will be very painful, and it will involve a lot of lime in pits with bulldozers. But yeah, maybe that's where we actually do need to go. Anyway, do enjoy your Sunday. If you can,